Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking the channel out today. What I want to run through is an age-old question. What is money? What is currency? What is this stuff that we use to trade amongst each other here? I'm pulling some of this information from a variety of sources. Robert Breedlove does a phenomenal job on his podcast trying to answer what is money. Safety and Amos, the Bitcoin Standard, also an amazing resource for what is money. We're going to take a look going all the way back into time for some of the original trades amongst humans. That is called the barter system. Now, the barter system is a trading system amongst individuals where I have a bag of apples, you have a used car, and we trade amongst each other without any sort of intermediary in between. Now, there are some pros and cons of a barter system, but we're going to focus today on what that is, and then we will expand upon that in other episodes to see why gold, why paper, why other forms of money were used throughout time. And thank you so much for checking the channel out here today. As always, my name is Agabus. This is your financial education channel, and today we're talking about money. Now, when we're using barter systems, let's go back to that example where I have a bushel of apples. I run an apple tree farm. You are a car salesman, and the two of us want to trade. Now, with a barter system, that's called a direct exchange. My apples for your car, but there are some issues at play with this type of trade. Now, the obvious ones that come to mind would be my apples. There's not enough of them where I'm able to save to make the trade for the car. You would have to have thousands of apples available in order for that trade to make sense. Of course, no one's going to want to make that trade because why are you going to want to have thousands of apples? So Safety and Amos says that there is a coincidence of scales issue, because when you as a car salesman are ever going to want to have 1,000 apples to make that trade, and then also when am I going to happen to have in my possession something that you're going to want to have to trade me with that car. So the dynamic here is that apples and cars are not going to be easily paired in order to trade. The other issue is what Safety says is the coincidence in a time frame. In order for me to have 1,000 apples, I need to probably save those 1,000 apples on my small tree farm. But the problem with storing your wealth in apples, obviously, is that those apples are going to rot. They're not going to hold their value over time. It seems obvious, but that's an important aspect, that an apple will degrade, will rot over time. It's a bad place to store your wealth and to store your money. Lastly is going to be the coincidence of location. The location of my tree farm, the location of your car sales, it's going to be difficult for me to bring my apples to your location, to your home, to your dealership in order for that trade to make sense. So there's a lot of friction that happens with direct exchange or with what's called a barter system. So naturally, the free market, meaning people amongst themselves trying to figure out how to trade, will find some third good, an intermediary, that will be used by both parties, something that is valued by both parties as a way to make that trade. Now, there's no right or wrong form of money. There's only good, better, and best forms of money. Good, let's say, would be the form of apples being used as money. It's only going to be used for so long until it starts to rot. But in certain countries, in certain villages, in certain places around the world, currencies have been used, such as apples, for a barter system. We've seen gold coins, we've seen silver coins. Again, the Bitcoin Standard also uses agra beads or glass beads. We've seen seashells being used. We've seen stones. We've seen all sorts of precious third-party material to be used as a part of that trade. Now, over time, the most common, the most widely accepted and used form of trade ended up slowly becoming something that is hard, something that is precious, something that does not degrade, does not erode, and something that is easily identifiable. Over time, that turned into gold coins, silver coins, as a way for everybody to easily identify, to easily trade, to store your value because they do not rot, and something that can be used as a unit of account in measuring the scale of the weight or in measuring how many different coins can be used for smaller transactions. Now, in some rare cases, as I mentioned before, anything can be used as this medium of exchange. In prisons, they've found that cigarettes are used as a currency amongst the prisoners. Again, anything can be used, but in certain areas you want to make sure that the currency is identifiable, you want to make sure that it is valuable to both parties, and you want to make sure that the currency, the item, the good that you're using does also not erode or rot over time. And lastly, I'll say another way to make sure you have a good currency is that the currency can be divisible or divided amongst smaller units and smaller transactions. If you have one large stone like the rhinestones that cannot be moved, are not easily divisible for smaller purchases, that'll make an economy only grow so far. You need to have smaller units of scale in order for smaller transactions to take place. We're going to stick with that today. Again, the question is, what is currency? What is money? And we'll expand upon that down the road. If you found this video helpful today, please share it with somebody else who also may find it valuable. The information in the Bitcoin space and in the currency world is becoming more and more precious. We need to be spreading the good news that there is a new currency that does fix plenty of problems with the current system. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to the end. As always, make sure to stay inquisitive, stay informed, and stay subscribed for more. We will see you tomorrow.